So, Pipe, Bert, Carter, hello.
Welcome back to the Piper Carter podcast. You are listening to Piper Carter, and I'm in the studio with both of my guests. We are on the Detroit is Different podcast network. So before we get started, I'm going to ask you to like, share, and subscribe. We are on YouTube Live, normally at 8 o'clock, but a little bit late today. And just as we're coming in, I'm going to say hi to Brittany. What's up,
Though?
Brittany?
What's up, Pipe? How you? What's up, Deja?
You don't hear
Good.
yourself?
I can hear myself now.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah.
right.
It sounds good.
All right. How are you, Deja?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, good. I don't hear you that well. And the microphone. Let me see. Okay, now I hear you better.
Okay. Cool.
Yep. Yeah. So
How was your week, Pipe?
my week has been wonderful.
Mhm.
Actually, I've been in the garden pretty much every day,
Yeah.
enjoying myself. And tell me about what you did this weekend. You did something really cool, right?
Veg Fest. Yeah, it was real cool. That was my first time. That was like the biggest thing I think I've ever done. Yeah, by far. It was cool, but to me, what made it cool is like how many people came and then like how many vendors there were. So there was Cooking with Q, there was Estelle Bakery, there was Chef Dunny, there was Radical Plants, there was Oh Shillelagh, um, there was so many. There were like 4 smoothie vendors. There were free samples. There were other, like the normal market on Sunday vendors too. So it was just a good time in Eastern Market, honestly. The only thing I didn't like about it is that I didn't have time to like actually go around and try all the vegan food. Like there was just so much food everywhere. I honestly think there should be more vegan fairs like that, like once a month. So I'm excited to like see if there's something that we can like cultivate within ourselves, like the little vegan community here, to put something on. There's something like that in LA called Vegan Playground. And every Wednesday and every Friday, their community gets together. There's no alcohol. They find like this like it's a standing location too. Wednesday is in one spot, and then I know on Friday it's at a downtown LA location, and food trucks and like just table vendors, just like how it was at Easter Market, like get together. They get a DJ, and I don't know what just happened, but anyway, they get a DJ, and yeah, it's like a big jam session, and the food is between no more than $5 and $7. So it like is intriguing for you to like eat more than just one vendor. Like it's kind of like a buffet. You like continue to try like all these different vendors' food, and it's just a vibe. So I could just envision it being something like that here, So that's my feedback on it. We had a great time. We sold a lot of pizza. We sold a lot of mushrooms. We sold 20 pounds of mushrooms, and we sold almost 60 pizzas worth of slices. Like my favorite one we did was the 313 slice. Wanted to, find a catchy name, and then along with having a catchy name, when you do a festival or something that has a lot of foot traffic and you're with amongst like a lot of different vendors, you want to have something that sticks out. So like as people are walking around, it makes people go like, "Hey, where'd you get that from?" Right? And then they'll be like, "Oh, I got that from right here." So the 313 slice was 3 different sauces on, one slice of pizza. and it was a pesto sauce, it was a vodka sauce, and a marinara sauce, and it worked. Like, you know, a couple people got it. First, people were getting like the barbecue pizza, and then people were mostly getting like the meat lover. Well, I called it the soyless East Sider, you know, all vegan. And then after the first few people bought the 313 slice, then all of a sudden, like everybody just in line just was like requesting it, which was what I wanted. So like that was really fulfilling for me, you know, to, you know, see that idea kind of come to life and like it actually work and it be beneficial. So yeah, that was Veg Fest. Piper was there. Shout out to Pipe. Um, it was a lot of food going on. So yeah, Veg Fest.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Stage. It was
That's
cool. It
awesome.
was cool. I'm not gonna hold you. Yeah.
Awesome.
Hmm.
Awesome.
Did you get to walk around, Pipe?
No, because I got there at the end. I didn't realize that it started at 10 a.m.
It shouldn't,
I thought it probably started like at noon
right?
or 2. And so what time did I get there? Like 3? And it
Yeah.
was closing. And I was
Hmm.
like, that's weird for a Saturday.
Hmm.
Because I
Sunday,
when I,
but yeah.
or was a Sunday, whatever. But when I do events, I usually if I do a weekend event, I start at noon or 1 because usually people don't come till like 2 or 3.
Exactly.
But yeah, so my loss.
That's cool. It was so good seeing you. I was so happy. I was smiling.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody was like, when I was rushing because like I got there, I parked and I was like trying to run to like go to your station and like, you know, every step I took, people like pipe, 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 pipe.
I know. I seen it
And
the
I was
whole
just like,
time.
and I was trying to get there and I was trying to call you like, where are you? And you were like, at the beginning. This shit's in a circle.
It
And I
is.
was like, okay, what's the beginning? And you were like, it's at the beginning, the beginning. I was like, the beginning of
I
what?
was
Like
really happy about
I'm
that.
in a circle. And then I was like,
But
okay.
it's true. Depending, you know, Eastern Market's huge. So like, depending where you come on in, that could totally not be your perspective of the beginning. But technically, I was so proud. Like, I had like one, I low key got played by Veg Fest last year. I was kind of like hurt about it. Like, I hit them up. I'm like, yo, like, I really want to be in Veg Fest. Like, please, like, this is so cool. And they were like, we'll think about it. And I'm like, damn. And then they came back. They're like, yeah, your pizza looks good, but you know, like, we're good. I'm like, damn. So then this year, they hit me up like, hey, like, you want to do Veg Fest? I'm like, hell yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's because you've been blowing up and you had articles written
I
about you
wasn't
and
gonna say that, but yeah, that's literally like
and
it was like
everywhere
the
I
day
go.
after. It was like the day after this one article came out, and I was like, I'll take it. Like,
Everywhere I go, everyone's like, you know Brittany?
I didn't know, chill, but seriously, it was like so cool when I got there. I got there. Setup was at 6:30. Like I was
In the
so
morning.
yeah, I was so like anxious and like excited. I got to keep on at like 4:30. Made an extra batch of dough. Like I was so excited. My cousin came, and then we were there at like 6:20, like nerds. Like yeah, like they were like, come on in, and they showed us where we were, and I was like, oh my god. The only thing I did, marketing is so important. I had great marketing. We had T-shirts, we had stickers, we had a cool pizza tablecloth. But my sign, I did everything so good. But my sign, I don't know what I was thinking. It was way too big. It was so big that
I didn't even see your sign.
bro, I had to use it as a freaking floor mat because it was too big. I couldn't mount it off anything. So that part I should have executed on better because I was missing a sign. I mean, thankfully, Veg Fest was so huge and so many people were there. Like everyone had long lines. So I'm not gonna say like, yeah, we had a long line. But I mean, we did, but everyone did, you know. But I should have had a sign. But thankfully, you know, things worked out. It wasn't like I suffered from it, but definitely should have like been able to have like a bigger sign because like Piper said, like depending on where you come in from Eastern Market, like the shit was not the beginning, even though that was the intent per the map. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So Deja, what's up with you? Where
yeah,
you
bitch.
been? What you been up to? Nails look good.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks.
Fleek.
I've just been at home practicing. I have a gig on Thursday at Speaker Box down in the Orange Room, so I've just been kind of getting ready for that.
Have you been to Speaker Box, Piper?
Girl, I don't go nowhere but my garden.
Okay, tell her about Speaker Box, please.
Speaker Box is a coffee shop at Griswold and Grand River downtown. And they are also a bar. They play a lot of house music. Yeah.
It's super, it's super fly though. Like I kind of feel similar. The only reason why I like house music is because of you. You make that shit so fly. But Speaker Box is so dope. Like you took me there for the first time, and I was like, damn. So the fact that you playing there is so geeky. Like
Yeah,
You
I'm
excited?
excited.
Is
I'm
that the
really,
first time
really
playing it?
excited. It is. It's gonna be my first
Dang.
time, so I'm really, really
You
excited.
gonna play in the same room we was in?
Uh-huh. Yep, in the basement.
Wow.
So this Thursday, 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Me and my homegirl Jess, we are a duo called Khadijah. We'll be going back to back for those 4 hours together. So yeah.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
So, tell us about your DJing. You never talk about it too much. You just say like, "I'm doing this, I'm doing that," but you don't talk about like what you do.
I don't know. I mostly just play house music. It's not like uncy per se. I do love techno. I just don't get to play it because it's just not my bag that I'm usually in. But I do love playing house. I have played hip hop and neo soul sets, but not as many as my house sets because I just like watching people dance. So I do prefer those parties. But yeah, I just kind of started doing it seriously almost a year ago. Next month it'll be like an official year. Wow, that's crazy. And yeah, I don't know. It's just something that I kind of started in 2015, but I didn't quite understand how to do it. I thought it was too tedious. I didn't get the mechanics of it all, so I decided to try it again last year, and I've had a lot of fun. I've had a lot of fun.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
what's up. So, I don't know. So last week we started talking about sustainable fashion, right?
Hmm.
I gotta put my glasses on because I did a little prep. But so we got into some stuff, and I wanted to kind of get to kind of like some meat and potatoes about it. Um, so, hmm. Well, I didn't want to quite go back towards the entire beginning of the conversation, but I definitely want to. Well, I don't know. We ended at a certain place, around the conversation. We started talking about like, the business of fashion. We started talking about like, the understanding that it's like a systemic issue and it's not a, well, I shouldn't say it's not a personal issue, but I don't know. We started talking about like personal behaviors, but then we gave the sustainable fashion principles. Um there's so much that I want to talk about, but I want to give like a little bit of context, right? So we said that this is fashion forward. It's like a series we'll do, and it's rethinking circular fashion, right? So we take a critical look at sustainable fashion and the challenge, and which challenges the notion of circularity, right? Um, so we were talking about like recycled materials. We were talking about like I said, the fashion principles and like what all that means, from the way the workers are treated to like the way the clothing is made to like sustainable business practices to just so many things. We named some of the organizations that were responsible for creating the sustainable fashion principles, and I'll just name we talked about like worker treatment and safety, ethical fashion business practices again, um environmental responsibility, right? So minimizing environmental impact through sustainable sourcing, reducing carbon emissions, conserving resources, and implementing eco-friendly manufacturing processes, ethical production, so ensuring fair wages, safe working conditions, and workers' rights through supply chain, including the prevention of child labor and forced labor, worker safety, prioritizing worker safety by implementing proper health and safety protocols, providing training, maintaining safe working conditions, supply chain transparency, so promoting transparency and traceability by disclosing information about suppliers, production processes, and labor conditions to ensure accountability and responsible sourcing, fair trade, so supporting fair trade practices that guarantee the wages, safe working conditions, and community development for workers in the supply chain. Ethical business practices, so conducting business in an ethical and socially responsible manner. including fair contracts, responsible financial practices, and adherence to ethical standards, collaborative partnerships. So, engaging in collaborative partnerships with suppliers, manufacturers, stakeholders to promote shared responsibility and drive positive change in the industry, empowerment and skill development. So, supporting worker empowerment through skills training, capacity building, and opportunities for career advancement, gender equality and diversity. So, promoting gender equality and diversity within the workplace, ensuring equal opportunities and fair treatment for all individuals, and social impact. So, considering the social impact of fashion production on local communities, supporting community development initiatives, and fostering positive social change. So, to kick things off, I wanted to throw it to either of you guys. Have either of you ever worked in the retail fashion industry or in a sweatshop? Just wondering.
No.
No, I haven't.
Never? Like, you've never worked in a retail shop?
I worked at Best Buy. That's as much retail I've ever got.
That's it?
Yeah, like, and then I worked. I used to. My friend, she had opened up a really small boutique in Royal Oak, but that was like, not like corporate retail. That was her own little thing. I would work there on Sundays for her back in the day.
What kind of shop?
It was like a boutique store. She would like, do sourcing and buy different brands and put it in the store.
That's called retail fashion.
Oh,
It's not big chain fashion, but she has a store. She sells stuff that's retail.
yeah, I would work in there on Sundays. Like it would just be me. So I would just, restock stuff and talk to customers. It was just a chill moment. It was dope.
What was she selling?
Um, she sold dresses. She sold jeans, purses, cute bathing suits.
You know where she got the stuff from?
Yeah,
You can't say. You,
yeah.
you don't have to say the name of her
I
store.
mean, let's just say we would go to Manhattan and go to that district.
Oh, Chinatown or the fashion industry district.
Yeah, the fashion district and
Okay.
Chinatown.
So it was like bootleg stuff.
Not bootleg, but just not like, it was a certain price range.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm gonna like name some like statistics that are kind of boring, but I wanted to see if they jar any thoughts in your brain. So, according to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, the fashion industry is responsible for 10% of global carbon emissions, more
Wow.
than international flights and maritime shipping combined. The fashion industry is the second largest consumer of water worldwide, with an estimated 20% of global industrial water pollution coming from textile treatment and dyeing. The Environmental Protection Agency estimates that in the United States alone, over 15 million tons of textile waste are generated each year, and only about 15% of that waste is recycled or reused. The World Bank, I know, problematic, states that about 20% of industrial water pollution worldwide comes from the treatment of dyeing of textiles. The equivalent of one garbage truck filled with textiles is landfilled or burned every second, according to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. The True Cost documentary revealed that fast fashion's low prices have led to a 400% increase in clothing production over the past 2 decades, resulting in an overwhelming amount of waste. And it takes approximately 2,700 liters of water to produce a single cotton t shirt, equivalent to what an average person drinks over a 3 year period. Synthetic fibers, release such as polyester, release microfibers when washed, contributing to microplastic pollution in waterways. It's estimated that around 35% of all microplastics in the ocean come from textile fibers, and the fashion industry is responsible for approximately 20% of all industrial water pollution globally, mainly due to the chemicals used in dyeing and finishing processes. And according to the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, which is the UNECE, the fashion industry, oh, that repeats itself, right, accounts for around 20% of global water pollution. So, um, wanted to ask you guys, what are your thoughts on that?
That's scary.
Why you say it's scary?
All of that water it takes. And then you think about just how many people don't have access to water, how many people need water, need food, other things that resource could be used to, produce. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I want to. What do you
That's
think, Brittany?
scary. And that, yeah.
Well, keep going.
Yeah, I think you should keep going
People
too.
just, waste clothes and don't even give them to resale shops, just throw them away. Um, and then say if maybe a material gets stained, there's nothing that you can really do to revive it, and then it just becomes a wasted piece of material that took, all of these processes and all of these resources to create. And it's just tragic. That's crazy.
Yeah, did you want to add on, Brittany?
Not really. I mean, I do find it interesting how I think what was the name you called it last week, like fast fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Like people really, I interpret that too. People really don't take the time to think about, like, the whole point of what you're saying, like what things go through to get to them. You know what I mean? Just in every industry, like I think about like even the concept of, like, to really digress, like war. Like people have this infatuation with violence, but they really don't know the process of what goes behind military and war. Like they just, it's like they consume it in a way that they're numb to what it really takes or what really is happening. Like, so in fashion, I think the same thing. I think everyone is so quick to just look a good, like, add to their presence and look away, that they don't really know or care like what all is happening in the background. So that just is just how that is just transcends, and so much of humanity is crazy to me.
So yeah, I wanted to share something. Why I want to say one of the reasons that I really curb like wearing denim, um, is I learned this statistic that a typical pair of blue jeans consumes 919 gallons of water during its life cycle.
Damn.
Yeah. So, you know what's interesting? When we look at like the fashion industry, I was watching this documentary. Actually, I was watching a news story as well. And it was talking about how in luxury, in like like the luxury world, that brands are, in essence moving towards sustainability, and then like how the so-called consumer is shifting to like not wanting to have their clothing, with all these dyes, and caring about who makes their clothing, and how the next generation does want luxury, but they want to have it sustainable. And you and I were talking last week about how we could say that we want things to be, sustainable, but at the end of the day, we're really talking about consumption and like consuming less. And so I want to kind of revisit that conversation because um you got really excited about that, Brittany, and you had some points. I don't know if you can remember your points, but I feel like we didn't really get to finish that conversation. So I'm
What
gonna
was
throw
I
it to you.
saying? What was I saying? No, no, no. What was I saying first?
So I had said that, okay, you gave an example about, well, what if the person does, their business in a way that's better, right? Like for everyone. And then I was like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
but it's still, promotes
Consumption. Yeah,
capitalism
yeah,
and
yeah.
consumption. So we didn't really get to finish that because that was like towards the end of our conversation. So I
I
don't know if you
mean,
wanted to add on to that.
like how people be like, you know, what they say, people getting like, anyway, I'm not even gonna go there with what I was about to say, but like I just feel like, all right, realistically, like people always gonna buy clothes. Like, you know what I mean? Like we have to like take, I think, micro steps in approaching things, or everything is just going to be a utopia vision. Like I really feel like so okay, we talk about sustainable fashion like in the world we live in, and like humans littering, we talked about that. Like okay, so like what are we going to do on micro levels to get to the places we want to be? Like that's where I want the concentration to be. Like yes, like right now we're discussing this very broad because we're trying to understand it and break it down and analyze it. But like when we talk about like successful plans and strategies, like how do we get to being truly more sustainable and not being caught up in capitalism and consumption? Like, so I don't know, like, what do we do? Like, start teaching more skills to sew, like start like really breaking down fabrics to young people. Like, what do we do on those levels to get to the point? Like I said, like right now, like I remember we had these old school guys on. They were like the union guys. It was like 2 or 3. It was like probably 4 years ago. Remember those older guys that you had come on here,
Yeah.
and they was like
League
talking.
of Revolutionary Black
Yeah,
Workers.
and they made some points. Like we were talking about Afrofuturism. We were talking about all these like big, broad ideas, and like, well, like, and they were like, this one was like, man, like you gotta understand, this people still going through stuff like right now. Like y'all talking about Afrofuturism, like we need to be talking about like the current reality, like of right now, if we really want to make like huge quantum leaps of changes. Like, and I think that's, like I said earlier, like that transcends, and I think everything we do as humans, like, so that has to transcend in fashion. So how do we get? I want to know, how do we get niggas to stop buying Gucci, Prada, Louis? Like, can we start there? Like, I think that's the first step before we even talk about sustainable, because like you just said, like brands like Gucci, like, or like you mentioned last week, H&M, they have two sides. Like they have a sustainable fashion line, then they have, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you can still buy our shit, like, because this is cheaper, way cheaper for us to make. So we still got to make the money back from what we do, this sustainable thing. Right. Like, so I'd rather see people go to H&M, black people, brown people specifically, than going to these European, Eurocentric brands. Like I told you, like it's a brand right now that's popping and it's fly. Like I'm telling you, it is so fly. But the name of it is called Heron. Like, why would a black person in 2023 after the 70s have that shit on? Like, I don't understand. Like, so to me, those are things that like I before we that to me is more I'm more passionate about. Like when we talk about moving towards sustainability, is like value systems changing, and that again transcends for black and brown people when it comes to even picking what you wear. Like, why would you continue to support a brand that tells you as a community that they don't want you wearing it? And even when they do create things for you, they biting off the rappers that create their own fashions. So it's like a double slap in the face. Like, so that's my 2 cents on it.
So I had written some ideas and stuff down, right? So um we talked about, right, like, so we examined like the environmental impacts, right? A little bit. And so I wanted to dive deeper into the concept around the circular fashion, right? Because circular fashion basically aims to create a closed loop system, right?
Yeah.
Where the materials are continuously recycled, right? So it's supposed to minimize waste and reduce the need for virgin resources. So I don't know. That sounds promising. Like, do you have thoughts on any of this, Deja?
No, I'm just listening. I was still looking up some other things about fashion. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's all good. It's all good. So okay, so I'll read a little more some thoughts. So um again, uh back to the conversation we were having. uh so P Groove said the mics sound great. Thank you, P Groove. Shouts
Hi,
out to
P. Grew.
um so basically we talked about like moving away from like a traditional like linear model, right? Of like take, and then more towards like a more like regenerative approach, right? And we talked about utilizing recycled materials, right? Like we talked about recycled plastics and just finding ways to like upcycle or reuse or reduce or redo, items. But we also said that the reason I was saying that consumption is really the thing is because I guess what I'm saying is that recycling alone isn't necessarily going to get us there, just because if we've seen um, the landfills, like, I don't know if y'all have seen any of the landfills, but the majority of the landfills is like clothing. And it's like, I don't know if y'all have ever seen these. So when these stores, designers, whether it's like a big box store or even if it's like a big designer, they might take their clothing and then it goes like all the stuff that's not sold, and then that goes to like the outlet, right? But all the stuff that's not sold, like whether it's at the store or even if it's not sold at the outlet, or the discount rack or whatever, all those clothing, even unused, unworn, like just made clothing, all that goes to landfill. I don't know if folks are aware of that. So the landfill is like full of like new clothes.
Crazy.
I don't know if folks even know stuff like
I
that.
didn't know that. I had no clue. Like I said, we don't know.
Hmm.
We just do. We just buy. We don't care.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
I'm gonna just read a couple more. So it says it's estimated that the average consumer buys 60% more clothing items now as compared to in the year 2000, but keeps them for half as long as they used to, right? And that goes back to like, this concept of like over consuming, because it's like being on trend, on trend, on trend, on trend, right? But think about most of the clothes that are in, let's say an average person, most of the clothing that's in your closet. Is most of your clothing trendy, or is it, or do you have like some staples? Like, I don't know. What about you, Deja? You're kind of a fashiony kind of person.
I have some like flannels that I'll always wear, and just some quality jackets that I'll keep forever. I try to be mindful of what I buy and what I inherit. People give me clothes too, which I appreciate because keep it going.
Hell yeah.
Saves me money, and if they don't want it anymore, I get use out of it, and I make sure that it's well taken care of before I give it to somebody else if I'm gonna do the same thing. So, um yeah, but I also feel like that statistic compared to the year 2000 also has something to do with maybe how people gain or lose weight.
Mm.
People's diets in America are, I think, worse than they were back then with all the
Mm,
new invention of random foods and access to different foods from different countries that, who cares how they were made and just shipped here for our consumption. Um, so I think that might have something to do with why people aren't maybe able to keep their clothes for as long. They might
that's
not be
funny.
able to fit them. And maybe, they just didn't last either. But
Mm.
it just depends. There have been disasters. People have had to move and relocate. Things get lost. So I think that there are a lot of reasons for that.
Hmm. I was gonna add also too. So like we talked about like shifting our mindset, right? Or at least Brittany had talked about that as well. Well, Brittany's always talking about people shifting their mindset, but so I wanted to also give, right, Brittany asked the question about like what are some things we could do like on a personal choice level. So we need to embrace sustainable shopping habits, right? Such as like buying fewer but higher quality garments, investing in timeless styles, and supporting brands that prioritize ethical and sustainable practices, right? Um, and I guess I'm always gonna, go for the like consuming less and like purchasing less. Uh, but I wanted to throw it back to you, Brittany. Like, what are your thoughts on what I'm saying right now?
I like it. I mean, you asked the question. I don't care what brand it is. I think certain brands do the certain things really well. Like American Apparel was great, right? They went out of business. They made really good t-shirts. Like their whole strategy was to like make, foundational pieces like t-shirts, flannels, hoodies, jeans, denim, whatever, and you pay maybe $80 for it, but it lasts you, for years. But honestly, Forever 21 gets a bad rep, And I don't know how they source it. I'm not adding to the sustainability part of it, but the concept of buying things that last, right? Like, I think that is so important. Like, I think thrifting is one of the coolest things that's still around. We talked about that a little bit, the evolution and what people have done with thrifting, right? That leads right back to capitalism, but the traditional thrifting, the fact that it still exists in our society, as much consumerism and classism that goes on, I love that. I love to see peoples of all caliber of life finding time to thrift. Like, I love thrifting. I've always been a thrifter. I didn't necessarily, my mom, we didn't grow up really in the thrift store. So I would
Mhm.
say, like, as far as trends go, like, once I started hanging around a couple friends that like thrifted, like when I was younger, like, I enjoyed it. And my aunt, before she passed, her older age, her and my mom started to enjoy it. And they probably did it, back in the day, right? But I love it. I love that. Like, one, um it's a, like you said, circular fashion in my eyes, my mind. Is people who are being conscientious and saying, like, I don't have use for this. Back to what Deja's saying, like, there's so many different reasons why people are in the market for buying new clothes. But when a person says, hey, I can't fit this anymore, I can't use this anymore, I don't want this anymore. Hey, someone passed away, I don't want their clothes. I'm gonna be thoughtful enough to give these clothes, take my time, and take these clothes to the Salvation Army, right? And the Salvation Army takes their time and they wash these clothes and they put tags on these clothes. You go into a Salvation Army, it's color coordinated, it's sectioned, right? It's men, it's women, everything is, sometimes it's more ordered than JC Penney's, TJ Maxx, Marshalls, and Burlington's combined. So that means people are intentionally dealing with this product and they're pricing it, right? So there's a lot of intentionality that goes around thrifting. Like, my main point is I'm glad it still exists. And two, I like hearing you bring up solutions. And when you talk about circular fashion, I think that's a great example of it. When it's not being used, right, for capitalism and, people thrifting Supreme and still charging what you can get a Supreme shirt for now, for something that came out in the, 90s.
Yeah, and I wanted to thanks for bringing it back to capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
Because I did want to bring it back to that, and I'm just reading some different notes and stuff that I have. So, uh yeah, so even in the world of recycling, right? Like you said, Brittany, that there's still this idea of like consumption. So
Yeah.
it's still um there's still the idea of like perpetuating even racism, classism, and capitalism within the recycling, right? Because they talk about like luxury upcycling or like, charging all this money for like recycle, like the resale shop, or even um the idea of like which resale shops to go to. I don't know, 'cause, like my mom used to, rest her soul, go to resale shops, and like when in the 70s and the 80s, it was, I say, a bit more like, you could go to, so like you would go to like a different class level, like sale, you know what I mean, like to where like you go to a neighborhood that had a different class, and then like the stuff that they were throwing away was like way different quality, you know what I mean, than the
Mm-hmm.
stuff that like people in the hood was throwing away. And it would be in better condition because and I'm just speaking about my experience, folks would like, move into a new piece of clothing a lot sooner than, let's say, like the mindset of a person that doesn't really have a lot of money. They move out of a piece of clothing because in general it can't serve them anymore, right? Like it might have holes in it, it might have underarm stains, it might you know what I mean, like there's some reasons that when you don't have, and this is not across the board because obviously people that are in different economic, you know class or whatever might be able to do different things. But at that time, my experience was that people who had a little bit more money, they would move out of a piece of clothing because they were moving just into another piece of clothing, either for, style or, like you
It's
said,
a
Deja.
psychological thing. It feels good to buy things. It
Mm,
doesn't feel good to spend money, but it feels good to buy things.
I agree with that.
And now when you can buy something online, there's the excitement of anticipating its delivery, and then you have the whole unboxing. That's a whole culture. Like there's just, I think, more psychological things going on too. It's not
yeah, they
just
talk about like
about,
retail therapy, right?
yeah, it is. I get it. Cause I like buying. I don't know, if I'm having a bad day at work, I'll go to Walgreens and like buy a pen or something. I'll use
Do you
it.
buy those $9,000 pens?
Not, they're like I buy a pack and then I give them out. I give them to people I know
Are they
sometimes.
the ones that are wood with like gold? Not
Mm-mm.
that. Okay.
No, they're different colored gel pens, and the
You
ink
have
dries
trauma
really
against those
fast. They're
pens, Piper?
comfortable. They're really good pens, but
No, it's just my mom used to be a pen person, and she would have like really nice pens. They'd be like $150 pens, and they'd have like an a ink thing that you like. You know what I mean?
I
Yeah,
feel
if
like
I
I
was your
Yeah.
do.
mom's daughter, she would have been whipping my tail because I lose pens. I don't care what kind. It could be a European brand pen, and it's gonna be lost somewhere.
My mom would stab you with that
I
shit, and
bet.
you'll never forget.
And people,
I believe you
some
too.
people just, don't keep their hands to themselves. So I don't have time to buy anything like really, really nice.
I hear you. I would steal pen if you. Don't let me
People
borrow a
steal
pen.
lighters. What do you mean? They'll definitely take a good pen.
Don't leave a pen around me. I'm just letting you know. It's unconscious at this point.
So I wanted to just add on. So, man, one day we're gonna have to do a show from a landfill. I don't even want to go to a landfill. It's
Oh,
so disgusting.
I just threw up in my mouth. I just smelled it when you said it. Oh no.
But I wanted to talk about something else in terms of sustainable fashion, which is like the worker. We had talked last time about the campaign that Fashion Revolution has around who made my clothes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've seen like the different factories that have like exploded because of the toxic chemicals, or like the ways in which the fashion industry uses like child labor, like especially in
We know about the
India
yeah.
and across the world.
So
Like,
wait, child labor still exists. Like we can go right now to a fact. It's
It will never
crazy.
why is
not
that funny?
exist.
That's not funny, but
It is funny to me that it's like 2023. It is like well-known information. Like it used to be speculation, like, yeah, Nike, they be having sweatshops. And then like in the 90s when people were like, hey, Nike, they got sweatshops. It'd
they
be like,
do.
they'd be like, man, like maybe like people still just go buy their clothes. It's 2023 and we still buying brands that have child labor. That child labor even exists. It's not funny. Of course it's not funny, but it's actually kind of funny.
All of these brands go back to it. There's nothing that doesn't go back to it.
It's craziness. We're
Every
crazy.
material that's created was created at the loss of somebody else's anything. You name it. Dignity, wage, whatever. Like there is a major L being created um for the people that make it at the earliest stages of its creation.
So
Exploited.
just for clarity, it's not okay. I always talk about the child labor in India, but there's child labor and sweatshops here in the United States. I don't know if folks know that.
Say that again.
I said I always talk about the child labor in India, but I'm saying there's child labor and um, sweatshops in the United States. And I don't know if folks saw, I think it's Idaho is did they pass the law? I mean, somebody looked that up. I don't know if they passed the law or if they're working on the law so that they can bring back legal child labor.
Okay, so what's child labor? Cause like, let's be clear. Like, a big part of what I do is teaching youth how to make pizza, and they're paid, and they love coming to work. Like,
Okay, let's be clear about what child labor is. The child labor laws were created to protect the worker. The unions that created like the 8-hour day,
mm,
um uh paid sick leave, like time off, um like workman's comp, like there's all these things that like the union actually created for the worker,
mm-hmm,
right? Okay, as we've evolved from the 30s, or like the 1800s to the 30s, into the 2000s, like especially uh you know all the way up through like 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, right? More protections have been put in place, like things around exposure to chemicals and dyes, and uh being able to have uh parental leave, right, and be paid for parental leave. Like there's all these, having health insurance, right? So there's all of these different um stipulations that have been put on uh you know the employer to like protect the worker, to support the worker, to help the worker as a human being. Child labor, let's just keep it a buck. These capitalists had, slaves. You know what I'm saying? Even like they still have slaves
mm-hmm.
across the world. If they could, if they could, these corporations would get away with everyone working 24 hours a day and no one getting a break. Let's look at Amazon. That's a perfect example. People at Amazon are actually dying because they're not allowed to go to the bathroom. There are people who are wearing a diaper when they work at Amazon, because what they make the people do at Amazon, you have to clock out when you have to go to the bathroom. They put the bathroom like way far somewhere, so it takes you like few minutes to get there. So when it's time for you to go to the bathroom, you need to clock out and clock back in. The way that they had the the bathroom like uh times and things, the way they have it situated, people are like harming themselves because they need a job and because they don't want to get caught, like quote unquote, like not working because I have to go to the freaking bathroom. People were getting like urinary tract infections and like
I'm not laughing at that.
all type of stuff because they have to go to the bathroom. That's just like one aspect. Like at these jobs, with union jobs, you're supposed to be able to have like a 15-minute break. You're supposed to be able to, you know, um, have lunch or have a meal if you work past a certain amount of time. With child labor, what was happening was that they were subjecting children to like 15 to 20-hour work days, no lunch, no bathroom, no break. They would use kids for like very dangerous things. So like if they were doing demolition or construction and there was like a hole and they weren't sure, like now they have like these robots that could like go through the drain before they'd send the kid. And then if the kid couldn't get through, drown and die, then they would know that like, oh, the hole is like too small. You know what I mean? Or
Mhm.
if the thing blew up and the kid like blew up in it, like, oh, we shouldn't have gone like that way. And so they would use children for like the most dangerous jobs because they figured like, oh yeah, they're disposable. The same thing like restaurants. I don't know if anybody's ever worked at a restaurant job. I worked a lot of restaurant jobs for like 15 years. I was waiting tables, bartending, working in clubs, working in fine dining, working in regular restaurants, diners, all of it. Restaurants to this day, I would consider maybe New York City. There's different types of restaurant jobs. Some people pay minimum wage, some people live off tips. in the world that I'm talking about is where people make still like $2.50 an hour and you get a tip. Majority of the people are undocumented or immigrant workers, not paid, no union. If they get hurt, they get hurt. Um, and people are working like 15 hours a day, like 15 to 20 hours a day, and are treated very poorly and are subjected to all types of sexual harassment, all types of abuse, verbal abuse, from the employer, from the customer, and they and are expected to continue to like work and smile and deliver and blah blah, blah. But anyway, there are plenty of jobs globally where the worker is still treated, very poorly and very unfairly. And unfortunately, there's lots of jobs like that. And fashion is one of them. You know what I mean? Even
Mhm.
in like the luxury side of fashion is like, oh, I'm wearing Gucci, I'm wearing leather, I'm wearing one of a kind, I have ostrich feather, on my blah, blah, blah. But the flip side of that is number one, the designer gets all the credit. And then the person that actually like does all the sewing, which is actually the person that like made your clothing, um, again, like gets subjected to all the like terrible, like work conditions and doesn't get treated fairly. So I don't know. I was talking a lot. I'm wondering
No,
like,
you
do
good.
either of you have any reaction to any of that?
It's not news to me, so I don't know. I've been hearing about this for years and knowing about it for years, so it's not new. I just think it's gonna continue to get worse. I'm not even gonna be optimistic. I'm just gonna be realistic. I have hope, and there is faith that better solutions will come. But overall, I don't see this getting any better because there's too much going on, and people need too much gratification for consumerism to ever slow down.
That's kind of the point I was getting at. Like I always, I was just saying, like, what can we do, like, in our peer circles? Because I think I don't know the child labor part. Let me address that first. Like, I want to talk more about child labor being in America. Like, that's actually wild. I mean, child labor, like on the levels you're talking about. Let me see. In America, there's an article that came out. It's the sources New Republic. Came out in February of 2023. The author's name is Timothy Noah. He said child labor is back. The Labor Department wage and hour division recorded a 37% increase in 2022 in the number of minors employed in violation of the Fair Labor Standard Act, which outlawed most child labor way back in 1938 and imposed strict limits on the rest. The 37% increase was over the previous year. Over the previous decade, the number of minors employed in violation of the act was up 140%. The surge in child labor reverses what had been the most significant of the past 20 years, a significant decline in the number of the minors employed in violation of the FLSA. Nobody knows exactly why the numbers started to climb in 2015, but probably it was because the labor market was getting tight. The unemployment rate, which had been falling since 2010, dropped in 2015 to 5%, which was considered full employment. Workers were getting hard to find. The unemployment rate since then has fallen further to a 3.4%. I'll read a little bit more. The violations began piling up just as Republican state legislators, many of them newly in the majority, went on the attack against child labor restrictions, pressing in various ways to expand the number of working hours and work setting available to teenagers aged 14 to 17, with exceptions for farm families, child actors, of course, and a few other child labor under 14 is illegal. One Wisconsin bill went so far as to ban the phrase child labor from the state employment statutes, requiring that the offending term be replaced by employment of minors. A bill introduced in Iowa last month would allow 14-year-olds to work in meat packing plants. Wow.
Yep.
If the youngster gets hurt due to its own negligence, wow, which is what we call additional insurance, everything goes back to capitalism and money. Wow, you want these young kids working for you, but you don't want to insure them.
Nope.
Man,
They got them doing
the
demolition.
meat packer will be indemnified against civil liability. I'm not going to keep reading.
Yeah, they got them doing demolition, which I think is like crazy. They have them doing they said that like 16-year-olds can work and serve alcohol. Now, I'm against that.
It's so funny, right? Like, we're talking about this stuff. Okay, let's put everything into perspective. So, me and you said we were going to have a genuine, intentional conversation about AI. Deja today put up something that is going to add to that conversation. The new Apple product, which is not, it's nothing but a virtual reality headpiece, but just an Apple formatting, right? So, of course, when Apple does their own formatting, it's different. It looks more appealing than anything that ever has come before it. Like, it's like Bluetooth speakers were a thing, right? Then AirPods came out, right? So it's like that's what that headpiece is, but it's still very intriguing in where we are with AI. So the point that I'm getting back to is we have this article saying they think partly 2015 is like way before COVID, right? 4 or 5 years before COVID. So the fact that that percentage started increasing before COVID, you can't really like blame, COVID on that increase. It's just kind of probably added to that percentage going up. But what I'm getting at is like, so we been had that issue, but then we have a child labor issue, but then we're also afraid of AI like taking human jobs. So it's like we have these two, to me, like very interesting issues going on, that consumerism has gotten so bad in like the moment we're in now, that it would be willing to climb the ladder on children's back again. And then right around the corner, humans in the next 10 years could possibly not be working at these jobs at all. This conversation just completely can possibly go away. Right? That connection is interesting to me.
Facts.
I mean, it's wild where we are in life, and it's all because of capitalism.
Yeah.
That's the reason why we're on that sliding scale,
Mhm.
so I don't have nothing else to say.
Okay, so I did want to give though, because you said something. So what I did, I looked up some different black owned brands.
Mm-hmm.
I can't
Tell far.
confirm
Hey.
or deny whether they are quality or not quality. So, but I can only look up what they say they are. So these are black owned companies that say they prioritize sustainability, ethical production, and embody values aligned with anti capitalist, anti racist, and zero waste production. So, Brother Vellies, you guys know about Brother Vellies?
No.
No.
It's a sustainable luxury footwear brand that focuses on artisanal craftsmanship and using environmentally friendly materials. Telfar, you heard of
I'm
Telfar?
buying Telfar bags all summer.
It says
Period.
a genderless fashion brand known for its iconic shopping bag that emphasizes inclusivity, sustainability, and accessibility. Um, Lemlem
DM is food to trade if you like Telfar bags.
is a woman's clothing brand founded by supermodel Leah Kebede, which specializing in ethically made and sustainable garments inspired by traditional Ethiopian craftsmanship. Um, Pat McGrath Labs. I don't know if y'all remember. Well, Leah Kebede, remember she was a big model about 20 years ago. Pat McGrath, um, iconic makeup artist, uh, black woman. So she's offering high quality, cruelty free cosmetics. Hanifa, which is a contemporary women's clothing brand recognized for its innovative designs, ethical production practices, and commitment to sustainability. Kintu, New York,
Mm.
a luxury accessories brand that produces timeless handbags using sustainable materials and ethical production practices. ADAS, a jewelry and accessories brand that combines sustainable design with a commitment to showcasing global craftsmanship and cultural influences. Um, Pyre Moss, a fashion label founded by Kirby Jean Raymond, known for its powerful storytelling, social commentary, and commitment to sustainability. Andrea Liama, a swimwear and ready to wear brand that celebrates African heritage, promotes sustainable practices. Jade Swim is a minimalist swimwear brand that emphasizes sustainable materials, ethical production, and timeless design. And here's a few more. Faye Noel, which is a luxury women's wear brand that blends Caribbean influences with sustainable and ethical practices. Kushni is a contemporary women's wear brand known for its sleek modern designs with the commitment to sustainable sourcing and ethical production. Maison de Mode, a multi brand retailer that curates a selection of sustainable and ethical fashion from various designers, including Black owned brands. Mateo is a fine jewelry brand that creates minimalist and sustainable pieces using recycled metals and conflict free diamonds. AAKS is a Ghanaian accessories brand that produces vibrant handcrafted bags using traditional techniques and sustainable materials. John Rogers is a fashion brand that celebrates bold colors and designs with a commitment to sustainability and inclusivity. Third Crown is a contemporary fashion brand that focuses on geometric shapes and architectural influences using ethically sourced materials. William Okopo is a women's wear brand that focuses that's founded by sisters Darlene and Lizzie Okpo, known for their innovative designs and commitment to ethical production. Whimsy and Row, a sustainable clothing brand that offers eco-conscious and ethically made pieces, prioritizing transparency and timeless design. And Ashia, a luxury accessories brand that specializes in sleek and functional bags, utilizing sustainable materials and partnering with artisans.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Thank you.
So, wondering, maybe Deja, have you heard of any of those brands?
I feel like I've actually heard of a lot of them. Pierre Moss, Faye Noel, Jade Swim, Telfar.
You like Telfire?
Yeah. I don't care for their bags, but I like their other pieces.
I love those bags. I
I
like the
just
duffel bags. They coming out with a East Pack. I like they collabs. I didn't like the UGG collab. That was tacky to me. But the East Pack collab. They coming out with a they coming out this Thursday with a East Pack collab with the duffel bags. You know, they real known for like basically they have the same bags, but I don't know how they do it, Piper. Maybe you could like read into it. They sell out within seconds. Like, so I don't know how much they're actually producing. I'm not trying to like hate on them, but like nothing is more than $500. Everything, maybe something is like 700. Nothing is, I've never seen nothing for 1,000. So they have the wallets. Everything has, it looks like a Tory Burch kind of tee. It's a little different, but I like it. It's catchy. Their marketing is really good. Like it's different. It's eclectic. It's queer. It's like, you know, it's not, it's queer, but it's not like this is queer. It's just, it's queer. Like
it's genderless.
it's cold, genderless. It's just when they're funny. Like they when they come out with different, it's the same product, but they release different colors, like Yeezys. You know, so when they come out with a new colorway, they do something crazy. Like they came out with like the corned beef and mustard. So they had like a corned beef because the color of the bag was like corned beef. Then the color of the bag that there was, you know how mustard going to corned beef. So it's like they did that. Like it's different. It's weird, but it's cool. Like so I mess with them.
Yeah, I looked up like maybe 10 more. Maybe we can
Yeah.
I'll put them on like
I need to look up some more.
Instagram. Yeah. I mean, and I guess for me, like I love fashion. but I love to like look at it, and I love it to look at it. I just, I guess because like knowing so much about it, um, it makes me like not want to like invest in it just because I don't want to like contribute. But at the same time, there are other values that I hold. Like I do actually have a value for supporting Black businesses. That's a strong value of mine. It always has been. And so I love to find Black businesses that have great values. Like that's the perfect nexus for me, is like ethical brand, values and quality. So where that meets, that's where that's where you'll find me. That's why I eat your pizza, Brittany, because your pizza has your pizza is like a fashion brand at this point. It's a good brand, right? Like
Thank you.
the name rings in the streets. Like if I say your pizza, like everyone's always talking about your pizza. And I think Deja, like your DJing, is becoming that brand, like that new hot
Man,
brand.
but I like Deja's brand because like her Thursday set, I don't know if she said it, she's doing like this like duo she does with her friend, and it is so epic, Piper, like what they do. Like you should actually come, like so you can see it. Like they both have like different styles just in general. It's like women, like they both cool, like they both have like an eclectic look, but they're different, so they also blend. Like I think Jess plays house too though, right? She'll play
Yeah,
house.
Just plays like everything.
Okay, but when I've seen them collab, Jess does hip hop and Deja does the house, like, and they vibe together so well. And then the music is just like it's so like what they like how they so it's like I like when it reminds me of like when rap groups are like jazz bands, right? Like when the jazz musicians like travel, like they have their solo, but then they also like could be in a what is it, like a quartet, or what's the one where it's a trio, like, or like Wu-Tang, right? Ghostface Killers and Wu-Tang, like, but they all had a separate brand, like
Can we
that's
talk about
fire.
Ghostface? That's a whole nother show.
Okay, you like
Did
him?
you
What happened? What he do?
Ghostface is like my favorite of all the Wu-Tang, but his um son, who does identify as queer, wrote this heart-wrenching letter, like a call out for like just naming the pain
Mm.
of like Ghostface being a deadbeat dad. And I think Ghost has like three sons and a daughter, and his daughter's special needs. And according to his son, he's like, he wasn't there for any of us and wasn't like a good dad. And so that just, I don't know, that's a whole nother thing that's just like really, really painful. And, because it's like, Ghost is my favorite MC. And it's
It
like,
be like that, man. I'm
I'm like,
telling you. Shit comes with a price. Having a favorite
why?
anything in Hollywood comes with a freaking price, apparently. But that's so
Humans
sad.
are flawed.
I know it comes with a
Don't,
cost. Our
don't.
cost of being a human is having flaws. Period.
I guess. And then you saw the most deaf.
I'm still going to see him with Erica Badu. So
I haven't
period.
either.
Until it,
His French baby mama from France, in France, is she suing him, or she's like, I need $88,000. So he's got to come out of 100K of his tour money. She's like, run me my money, for her
Ulu,
child
won't you say
support
I
for him.
try?
And that's overall. It's not, it's like overall for the child support that he hasn't paid. But like I said, I told you I had seen him over the years in child support court in Brooklyn, so it's not a mystery. But yeah, I know
I don't want to
why.
talk about this. This is tough for me.
It's too tough,
They
huh?
can have Russell Simmons though. Y'all can drag him. Y'all can have that nigga. And
Yeah, I don't.
it's tough for me to
He
give up.
shouldn't come back to the U.S.
Y'all want me. Cancel culture wants me to give up Nas, Most Def, Ghostface.
Were you
That's
excited
tough.
about the Fuji's reunion?
It was funny to me. I mean, I don't know. Did
Oof.
y'all see the performance?
No, was it good?
Well, let me say this about that. There was a comment under the
And y'all want me to give up
In the
Kanye.
live?
oh yeah, there was a comment and the comment was like feds in the building. I was like
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that is
Yo.
true.
Facts.
So I don't know. I was looking at it like that was the first thing I thought. Like when I saw it and I saw Lauren Hill with like her interesting little hair. She had like a mullet, like an afro mullet. It was like she had like a
It was like a high
cameo.
top.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
a high top fade mixed with like a mullet, like an afro mullet. And I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. And then, but the very first thing I thought was like, wow, maybe they're doing this tour so Praz can get some money to pay his attorney. Like, I don't know. What do you
He
think?
going to jail. I think he's going to jail.
He's definitely going to
Anytime
jail.
somebody is involved in doing something with the government, like they play both sides, they go to jail.
That's what I thought. That's what I said.
I mean,
But
that's just what
I
history
think
says.
that's
I
just
don't
what
want
that
anyone to go to
reunion
jail.
was. It was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be our last opportunity to do it. Maybe. That's what I thought. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it though. I thought it was
Yeah. I mean, they're
cool.
great,
Yeah.
they're great. It's crazy. I don't know. But I've had fun. How do you guys feel?
Great.
Yeah, it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Good progressive conversation.
Love it.
Hopefully, if you saw this, talk about it with people that you see tomorrow. This
Girl.
topic, we got to keep finding solutions to these problems that aren't going anywhere at the rate we're moving.
Nope.
Yeah. So I don't know. Deja, did you want to leave us with anything? Do you want to promote anything?
Speaker box Thursday, 10 p.m. Come see me. Tell a friend, bring a friend.
What's your social?
Underscore on Instagram is underscore DEJ.Y.
Thank you. Brittany,
Speaker box on Thursday.
Thank
what's going on
you.
with the pizza?
Nothing. I'm just gonna be at speaker box on Thursday. Let's start there.
Serving pizza?
No,
When
dancing and listening to music. Then I'll tell you if you come to speaker box. Then I can tell you about the pizza that's gonna be on Sunday at Village Pizza. But before we can get to that, you got to get the speaker box first.
okay, and
Girl.
then what happens Sunday?
We doing pizza, mushrooms, salad,
You're gonna get the air fryer
calzones.
for your
Got
girl.
yeah, Piper's air fryer.
The
Okay, because you know I
deliciousness.
can't do all that.
I
Dough.
know.
I'm 51, girl. So
Okay,
okay, and
cutie.
what's your socials?
At is food Detroit. At ITSFOOD Detroit.
Yeah, and then for me, Piper Carter podcast on Instagram, on Facebook. We have a Facebook group. I'm hoping to get more people in there. We have a Patreon that you see at the bottom of the screen. Um, Also, a lot of studio is starting also on Thursdays. So it'll be before you go see Deja.
Whoop, whoop.
You want to see a live podcast from each of the podcasters and a live performance. Yeah, so we're on Detroit is Different. You want to, hit us up on all the socials on Detroit is Different, and also on the socials on Piper Carter podcast on all the socials. I want to shout out the people in the chat. Definitely Ben, Frank, and definitely Truth Hip Hop,
What's up,
and
Truth?
all
What's
the
up, Ben?
listeners that have been tuned in. We want everyone to practice at least one of the sustainable fashion principles. Let's get us closer and closer. If you're interested in sustainable fashion, I do have a whole online magazine that's dedicated
That's
to
right.
sustainable fashion called The Studio Arena, where I talk about this. But yeah, we'll see you next week.
Peace.
Peace.